everything. There we go. It's 10 o'clock. Hmm?
They ain't true running right now.
No? The intro. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Community Matters Show. Thanks for allowing me to come into your heart, into your eyes, and to your homes this morning. I want to say good morning to my co-host, Keith Falk. Good morning, Brother Jay. And our special guest this morning is ex-Chief Toby Aguilar, running for City Court Judge. And y'all know I always like to start off the show with the prayer. So let me see if my prayer warrior is ready to bring the prayer to the open line.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, prayer warrior. How you doing this morning?
Doing blessed and thoroughly favored, sweetie.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that. You know, well, as you know, we always like to start the show off with the prayer, and you the prayer warrior. So, if you're ready, you can take it on.
Okay, I got you. Now, the first, okay. Today says, expect to encounter adversity in your life. Remember that we live in a deeply fallen world. Stop trying to find a way that circumvents difficulties. The main problem with an easy life is that it masks your need for me. This is what God is telling us. When you become a Christian, I infuse my very life into you, empowering you to live on a supernatural plane by depending on me. Anticipate coming face to face with impossibilities, situations totally beyond your ability to handle. This awareness is your inadequacy. This awareness of your inadequacy is not something you should try to evade. It is precisely where I want you. The best place to encounter me in my glory and power. When you see armies of problems marching toward you, cry out to me. Allow me to fight for you. Watch me working on your behalf as you rest in the shadow of my almighty presence. The book of Job, the verse 5:7, Revelations chapter 19:1, Psalms 91:1. You can find that information in your Bible.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, it's always a blessing for you to read the prayer at the beginning of our show. And it looks like every time you read the prayer, we have an awesome show behind it, because I think we put God first in all that we're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a blessed day. We love you and keep up the good work.
I love you too. Wallace Senegal, Brother Jay, Brother Keith Falk, you guys know y'all got me.
Right
Yes,
on.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your support.
It's only going to get done. I'm very proud and very happy to be a part of reading the word to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Not just reading the word to the show, you're reading the word to everybody who's have ears.
That's right. That's right.
All right, thank you. And have a blessed and wonderful day.
Have a wonderful show, you guys. I know you will. We'll be watching and listening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Good morning to all our viewing audience. And before we get started, we got to put this disclaimer out there. The views and opinions expressed today does not reflect the views and opinions of Lafayette Consolidated Government, Acadiana Open Channel, Cox Communication, or LUS Fiber. Good morning. We have a show for you today. Mr. Wallace Senegal, the host. I'm Keith Falk, the co-host. Brother Jay behind the scenes, our director. And we have the great Honorable Toby Aguilar
Yes.
coming in. He's going to be talking about his bid for Lafayette City Court Judge.
Yes, and I want to say good morning, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Don't
Thank
mind
you, Mr.
shaking my
Wallace.
hand. We had to have ex-chief running for city court judge Toby Aguilar on today because he was a former chief here and he did an awesome job.
Thank you.
And I know two persons that did an awesome job in the chief of police department. That was Chief Toby Aguilar and Chief Thomas Glover. And too bad they got fired for no reason at all, you know. So, but with that, we want running for city court judge Toby Aguilar to give a little something about himself
Okay.
and why he feels that he's better qualified for the job.
All right. Well, first, thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate the friendship. And good morning to everybody who's following the show today. It's a great honor for me to be here. And so let me tell you guys a little bit about me. I grew up in Cameron Parish, in the Marshes, one of 7 kids. My mom and dad were French-speaking Cajuns. I lost my dad many years ago, but my mom is still living there in the Marshes. I'm the second from the youngest, so I have a lot of older siblings and one younger brother. My family, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. You know, first in my family to go to college. But my mom and dad gave us a lot more than just money. You know, we spent a great deal of time in church. We spent the time that we were supposed to in school, and the rest of that time was at home working. Yeah. My dad back then would raise about a 2-acre garden, and that's what we sustained ourselves with most of the time. So you know, we may not have had a lot monetarily, but we certainly had a lot. I was very fortunate to have grown up the way I did, and that has led to everything that's come to me in my life. Is having the opportunity to having grown up in a loving home with parents who brought us up right, and I owe a lot to my mom and dad for that. So whenever I graduated from high school, I entered the seminary. I studied for the Diocese of Lake Charles to be a Catholic priest, and they sent me to St. Joseph's Seminary in Covington, and I graduated from there 4 years later with a college degree. And it's at that point that I decided to step out of seminary formation because I frankly wasn't sure if I could handle the celibacy and not having the opportunity to get married and have kids of my own. And I'm glad. I think it was the right decision for me, although I have often felt called to the ministry. I've been able to kind of fashion many of the things I've done since as a ministry. So, you know, it may not be quite the same, but it just wasn't for me. And so, not long after seminary, in fact, I started working as a deputy sheriff, and that's where I really found my love for law enforcement. And an attorney, local attorney in Cameron Parish, this is back in the early 90s, called me in one day. I was serving some papers at his office. And he said, Toby, what are you going to do? I said, you know, Mr. JB, it's JB Jones. I said, I'm thinking about going to law school. And he slapped his desk and said, well, I want you to come work for me on your days off. And we're going to help you get into law school, and I'm going to help you. I want to see you do that. And so again, God brought these people in my life that just stepped up and helped me when I needed it, and I got into Southern University Law, which I loved. I absolutely loved my experience at law school.
Okay.
And it came out of law school 3 years later. Well, with the I had fallen in love with law enforcement and criminal justice, and so I became a prosecutor. As I was an assistant DA in Cameron Parish. I did that for a few years, and I was given the opportunity to go work for the then Attorney General, Richard Ayoub. You guys may remember Richard.
Yeah.
Richard hired me. Well, we were from the same area, and we had connections, and I was a very young lawyer at that point. I was still in my 20s, but he hired me, and he said, I want you to start a new high-tech crime unit. Richard said, this is back in 1999, Richard said, one day in Louisiana, everyone's going to be walking around with a cell phone. And he said, our law enforcement agencies are not going to be able to keep up with that technology. So the Attorney General's office is going to step in and provide them the tools they need to conduct investigations on all those modern devices. And I looked at Richard and I said, I think you're crazy. I don't see that happening. But lo and behold, he was a visionary, you know, and he taught me a great deal. And when I worked for Richard, and then later for Attorney General Charles Fody, I was running the high-tech crime unit. That became my niche, particularly internet crimes against children. So child pornography cases, internet predator cases. And I prosecuted those cases for many years in both state and federal court, and also led the investigators in their pursuit. This new technology called the internet and all the devices enabled us to capture child molesters in a way that we had never had before. Identify and capture them. And as a result, there were hundreds, probably thousands of child molesters that we had caught in Louisiana and brought justice for these children that we were never able to capture before at any point in time. So it was an exciting part of my life, being part of that Internet Crimes Against Children group. Very rewarding. Very much like a ministry to me, and I worked with a lot of great people across the country. In fact, one of the things I got to do as part of that program was go around the country teaching prosecutors and young investigators how to work those types of cases, and that was something else that I enjoyed a great deal. Now, it occurred to me one day that I wanted to be either a sheriff or a police chief. So you guys may remember when Jim Craft became chief. The parish president back then was Joey Durrell. Yes. Well, I applied to be the chief in Lafayette, and I'll tell you why. My wife is from Ville Platte, so I deliberately married a girl with a Cajun accent, right? and this culture here in Lafayette is both for me and my wife. This is our culture, and living in Baton Rouge, you miss that. You know, we don't have that there. So I had seen that the chief's job was coming available in Lafayette, so I applied, and I had a great interview with then President Joey Durrell, and I didn't make the cut. Okay. But Joey called me and he said, "Listen, I'm calling to tell you I'm not giving you the job." I said, "Well, Mr. Durrell, I'm shocked that you would call me to tell me no." And he said, "Well, I'm only doing it for you, and I'm doing it for you because I felt like you had a great interview." And I said, "Well, Mr. Durrell, why? Why didn't I make it?" And he said, "Because I don't know you." And I said, "Well, the next time you're looking for a chief, I'm going to apply because I want to be the chief of police in Lafayette. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to get to know you over the next few years." And we did, and we kind of kept in touch. And as it turns out, y'all weren't looking for another chief until 10 years later. A new parish mayor president was in place, and I applied again, and I got lucky the second time around. And moved my family to Lafayette after Joe Robideau hired me to be chief. And let me tell you something, no chief of police has ever enjoyed their job more than Toby Aguilar. I absolutely loved it. It was everything I had ever wanted. It was at the department I wanted. Lafayette PD is a special place. It's special among the agencies in Louisiana. And having worked in law enforcement for many years and prosecuted cases around the state, I knew Lafayette's where I wanted to be. It was our cultural home. It was the place I wanted. So I'm very grateful for the time I got to spend as chief.
Well, I got to commend you on that. When you was a chief here under Joe Rubidoux, you was a good chief.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
You know, you was always in the community. You wasn't sitting at your desk and ordering officers around. When they was there, you was there. So, and that's what, you know, I gotta tell you, you know, out of the two chiefs that I really had close contact with was you and Chief Thomas Glover. And you guys were some excellent chief of police here in the city of Lafayette, and I want to commend you on that.
Well, thank you. It was, you know, there's always room for improvement no matter where you go. And I went to Lafayette PD knowing I was going to among the best agencies in our country. But, you know, we've got to always step back and take a closer look. And my type of command was not what they were used to. I was very fortunate to have been able to come into Lafayette PD, and for the first time in its history, it had a deputy chief, which the other chiefs didn't enjoy. So I was very lucky. And of course, you can't have a better deputy chief than Reggie Thomas, right? So imagine me coming in, an outsider, new, and my right hand is a guy who, first of all, has already run the department himself as interim chief. He also had, I don't know, 25 plus, maybe almost 30 years of experience in the department itself, and very capable, you know, Reggie Thomas is a force to reckon with. You know, he don't ever stop thinking about what he's doing next and how we're going to improve things. So, you know, that was God putting me in a position that, listen, others might have struggled with, but I was given all the tools I needed to be successful. There's no question.
I know one of them was, he was a sergeant at the time, and now he's a major. Michael Brown.
Mike Brown, yeah, yes, sir.
Mike Brown, every time I would see him, you know, I'd ask him, I said, man, how you and the chief getting along? He said, ask the chief.
Chief Aguilar, I know we're talking about your background as being chief of police in Lafayette. That deputy chief position, you think it's important?
Absolutely, absolutely. Find me another department in this state where the chief does not have either a deputy chief of police or an assistant chief of police, and that includes every department from a 5-man department to a 25-man department. A department that has, you know, 350 employees, almost 300 officers, to not have a deputy chief is unheard of. Anywhere in the nation, but certainly in our state. So I believe that position is key, and it was part of what allowed us to do in what I think was a fairly short period of time a great deal of success. And that I measured success in coming into a new department, an outsider with new ideas. I had a completely different style of command as the previous chiefs in that my command was decentralized. I believe that you've got to give people the freedom to do their jobs. Okay, you make expectations, you tell them what you want and what you expect, and then you allow them to use their abilities to make that happen. I don't believe in watching over people's shoulders. And now if the job's not getting done, we replace it and put somebody else who'll do it. But I didn't have to do that there. And we were implementing community policing, problem-solving policing. That was our approach, and it was all about building trust in the community. And, you know, buy-in was a little slow at first, but it came. And we were able to also hire new officers that I thought were just fantastic people, young people who were eager to start off with community policing as their platform. And problem-solving policing is what we were after. It's what we were trying to accomplish. And in a short time, I felt like we built a great deal of trust in the community, as well as within the department. I saw the officers smiling. And listen, you know, they were starting to buy into the idea that it's not us against them. We're all in this together.
Right.
And I think we made a difference. And I know that You know, we were able to pass the largest new pay plan ever in the history of Lafayette PD for the benefit of these officers. And I told them, I said, I'm here to take care of you guys. You need to trust me and allow me to do that. I would never have been able to accomplish such a feat without a deputy chief. Okay, as chief, if you don't have someone, a right hand who can handle the day-to-day operations, that means you cannot be out there talking to council members, talking to the public, talking to the mayor president, and getting the things done that you need to get done for that department. We were, at that time, we were losing so many officers to Texas. We bring in these new young people to Lafayette, we train them, we put them on the streets of Lafayette, they get this great experience for 3 or 4 years, and then they leave us and go make twice the money in Texas. Well, that's not cost beneficial for Lafayette. And so I knew we had to get that pay up a bit if we're going to keep our young people from leaving this state and ultimately saving us money. I mean, that's how we were able to sell it to the politicians. And when we finally went in and got it done, we did it without any opposition. And so my point in telling that story is that it takes, you know, we need a chief of police who has time to deal with, if nothing, there's no other way to say it, the politics.
Right. While
the department is also being run, right?
Right.
And you know, and the department that side deserves to have at least one deputy chief, if not more than one. Lake Charles Police Department, which has 100 fewer officers than Lafayette PD, has 3 deputy chiefs. Just to give you kind of an idea of what we're talking about. So I think it's what's needed.
And I think just to be accurate, the mayor president did away with that
yes.
Position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, and listen, I'm not here to criticize the mayor president.
No.
I mean, everybody, you know, he has a different sense of how things are run. But if it were up to me, there would be that. And I just know how much it meant for me, and that's, you know, that's all I'm saying. But you know, this community solving policing is what I want to bring to city court, and it's community solving judicial system.
Okay.
You know, when I told the officers early on was that I want you to see yourself as a problem solver. I want you to see yourself as the community's problem solvers. Now, it doesn't matter how little or how big their problem is, and it doesn't matter to me whether it's a criminal matter or not. You are the people that people trust to call. So when you arrive and they're having whatever issue it is, take the time and help them through their issue. If it's a cat in a tree, go get the cat down. You know, if it's more than that, if it's a problem with neighbors, bring those neighbors together and get them talking. Communication is usually the key to working out any problem. See yourself as a problem solver. That to me was the best approach. It's what's needed across America right now with our police and our communities, as I see it. And so my ideas for city court are very similar. We've got to figure out ways to be better problem solvers. When people are coming to misdemeanor court, for example, which is Lafayette City Court, we need to have judges on the bench that are willing to work out whatever issues these people are facing, help them move on with their lives, right? So I see myself, if elected, I see myself as a problem solver.
Okay.
That's great. That's a good plan moving forward. I think city court would be better served with that, being that most of the cases city court hears is small crime cases.
Right. It's a misdemeanor court. It's a small claims court. That's what Lafayette City Court is. And so those are all the issues. But you know, misdemeanor court in many ways is the great way to help. You're in a position as a judge in city court to help people who maybe for the first time have gotten caught committing some kind of crime. I would see my role as city judge is to help these folks who are in court for the first time address whatever issues brought them to city court so that they don't find themselves in felony court later. That is my goal.
Yes, sir.
And that would be my goal with every single case that comes to me in misdemeanor court.
Well, you know, sometimes, most of the time, city courts handle traffic tickets.
Right.
You know, the 15th Judicial District handle drunk driving case. You see, and I think you have a wonderful platform that you want to go on to make sure that the people that's coming to court don't leave out of court angry to where they're gonna go do something else, or they got such a fine where they got to go and steal money,
Right,
to try to
right.
pay for their fine,
No, we're not, I don't see, my vision is not to create additional problems,
Mhm.
solve
Solve
problems.
problems,
And
yeah.
you're right, that does happen far too often.
Yes, sir. So, and that's what's bringing you to, the proven leadership that you have here in Lafayette, and I could vouch for that,
Thank you.
You do have proven leadership, especially through the police department. And right now, we have a lot of people that's disappointed in the way the city is being ran, and it started off with you, because you was a leader and a pillar of this community as chief. So, and you did a wonderful job as chief, and I think if you, by any chance, get into city court, you'll be an excellent judge.
Well, thank you. I certainly would try to be and put all my abilities and efforts to help in our community. Rachel and I love this community. We want to see it prosper. We want to see the people here prosper, and that would be my goal, Mr. Wallace. When we moved to Lafayette, we finally reached a goal that we had wanted for many years, and we have not been disappointed. We simply love the community, the people here, and I'm very grateful that as I walk around town. Yesterday I was downtown, and several people stopped and said hello. That's the great thing about Lafayette, is we all kind of know each other, and everyone's not afraid to say hello and talk to you. It doesn't have that big city feel,
Yeah.
So I mean, we just love it. We're not going anywhere. We're gonna be right here in this community. This is now our home.
Yeah, well, you're running a race for city court judge. You have some opponents. Your opponents have just as much right to run like you are, and whoever put the best foot forward, that's who's going to be the winner.
That's right. And the great thing about this race, as I see it, is that all of us that are in it, and Judge Edwards and Ms. Bustani, all good people. Lafayette has a tough choice to make, because this is a race that has, I believe, really good candidates. I think any one of us will do a fine job in that position. A lot of respect for Judge Edwards, and a great deal of respect for Roy Bustani as well. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting, and it's a matter who knocks on the most doors, perhaps. But I'm doing my best. But I can tell you that no matter what happens in this race, Lafayette's going to be in good hands.
Yes, sir. Chief Aguilar, we know that there's a lot of outstanding warrants, and some people are just afraid by not having fine money
Sure.
at the last date, and they're afraid to go back because they're afraid they're gonna be put in jail. What would you do to implement it to make people feel comfortable about returning back to court anyhow they don't have their bond money, or they didn't complete the program that was asked to complete?
Right. So addressing the backlog and certainly the amount of warrants that we have in city court right now are an issue that needs to be dealt with. And so I can tell you that with the working with the chief judge, if I were elected, the first thing I would want to do is model maybe a 2-week period once a year, so that people with active warrants can come in and address them. Where in that 2-week period, we would suspend the extra fees and such, and allow them to come in and get square again with the court. This is something that's being done in Baton Rouge City Court. Major Brown, who was the marshal there, instituted that several years ago, and they've been very successful in clearing up a lot of these old warrants. I would simply attempt to model precisely what they've done with the marshal's office and city court in Baton Rouge, and bring that to our court here. I think it's what needs to be done. It's a fair way to get people you know, when you've got that hanging over you, there's so many things that affects their lives negatively. And it's true. Who has extra money to pay a ticket?
Yeah.
I mean, and so, you know, it's all about problem solving, right? We want to see ourselves as, I would see myself as a problem solver. Absolutely. I will work with the chief judge to make that happen immediately.
Yes, sir.
What about, Chief, having community service, having people that come before you that can't afford it? Are you willing to implement a community service program?
Sure. So we're talking about money, always talking about money. Community service means there needs to be supervision, and how do we make that happen? Well, you know, if we're going to be a problem-solving judicial system, that needs to be part of it, because first of all, there's no room in the jails. It's not cost-effective to put people in jail most of the time, and certainly when we're talking about misdemeanors. I don't believe that in most cases jail is the solution. I believe there has to be a better way, and community service is an excellent way. And one of the things that that I've put on my platform, and many people may not see this as being you know, something super important, but one of the things I want to implement is litter court. I want to do something about our litter problem. I want people to have pride in our community, and I want to have at least a place where we're enforcing it and litter is being addressed. Part of that would mean having a community service program of those who have been fined or ticketed for littering. They'll have a place to work off their fine by picking up trash on the side of the road. And of course that means that, you know, we're going to have to get the deputy marshals to assist, and we're going to have to get a van, and we're going to have to get all the tools needed to make that happen. So that it's easy for anybody to say we can implement that, and I'm not saying that can happen right away, but I think with the right efforts, putting the right people in place, talking to the right people, getting the funds we need to initiate it, and then finding a way to sustain it through the court system, I think is something that has to be discussed. And so you talk about community service, with me, it's going to start with things like that.
Okay. Wow, this has been many years ago. I picked up a ticket through an accident, you know, and I went to driving school, you know.
Yep.
Because I had to go to driving school because I did this in a big rig.
Ah.
And big rigs, they don't play with the drivers.
No.
You know, and
that ticket hurts a commercial driver.
oh yeah, and so Judge Khalid Saloon at the time said, I got a choice for you. Either pay this ticket or go to driving school. Driving school.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, so I went to driving school and got that taken off my record. Kept on driving and never got no more after that.
Right.
And the little fender bender I had, you know, man, I don't think the dude felt that, but he sweat up and down, you know, because I hit a snowboard at the time, and it kind of tore the bumper. And when I bumped it, the bumper just fell. And if I had enough sense at the time to know what a tie means, I could have tied that bumper up, but I didn't know. I just hook it back up, you know. So those kind of things, you know, we facing, you know. I'm glad to hear about your platform, what plan you have, because like I said, on your push card, you got proven leadership.
The programs that you want to bring would be very beneficial.
Yes, sir.
Well, so let's talk a little bit more about those. Another idea I have is having a special court services for veterans who find themselves in misdemeanor court. When I was chief, I learned this. You know, we were dealing with homeless issues and transient issues and people panhandling on the side of the roads. Believe it or not, that's one of the biggest complaints I would get almost daily.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking to learn that many of the folks that officers come in contact with who are panhandling, for example, are in fact honorably discharged veterans who are living on our streets. And it just seems to me that when officers are writing those misdemeanor summons to folks like that, in city court, we owe it to these veterans who stepped up at some point in their lives, stepped up and served our country, and provided us the very freedom that we enjoy today. It was their efforts that lead to the fact that we have courts in the first place, right? I feel like we owe it to them to find special help for their needs. So if an honorably discharged veteran finds himself on the street or herself on the street, first of all, there are places in Lafayette that specifically are for them, like Catholic Charities of Acadiana, for example, has a home place for veterans. We have our VA hospital located right here. We have resources here. As city judge, I would incorporate all the resources available to veterans, have a special time set aside for those cases, and when they come, we would take a look at why these folks are finding themselves in need. Is it a drug, some sort of addiction issue? Is it PTSD issue? Identifying whatever issues they have and working towards helping them with those issues and getting them off the streets and getting them productive lives again. And you know what, another sad thing I learned is that many of these veterans are not even aware of the benefits that they are entitled to. And so having the resources in place that can help them identify their benefits and get them connected with those providers. So, you know, helping our veterans, I think, and in doing so, we would also assist with the homeless issue and the panhandling issue at the same time. So that would be one of my focuses as well. You know, in terms of a platform, I believe that when folks come, and we do hear some DWI cases in city court, I believe everybody makes mistakes. Lord knows I've made plenty myself, right? But I do believe when someone comes to court on their second or a repeat DUI, that has to be addressed. And so I would be a judge who would, when the evidence is clear, if they've already been convicted once, they're likely not going to leave my court with another first offense. They're going to leave with a second offense. Because I believe it is important to address those issues. I am tired of seeing folks get killed on our highways by drunk drivers going the wrong way on the interstate. You know, and so I just think that's something that, as a city judge, that I could take a little stronger approach on, and that would be part of my platform as well. So reducing recidivism, you know, identifying folks who are repeat offenders and addressing their needs, and that means, you know, building trust in their lives. I find it heartbreaking that there's too many folks in our society, in our community, who simply do not believe that they are entitled to a good life. They don't see a bright future for themselves, and as a consequence, they're led towards crime, repeat offenses, and so we've got to help these folks identify their needs, and part of that is having a judge who lets them know that I believe in you, and I believe in your ability. And I believe that you're entitled to much more than what you think you're entitled to. You know, and letting them know that, listen, we're here to help you move on. Stop this bad activity and move on and create a productive life for yourself. And we're going to do everything. And just simply letting them know we believe in them, I think, is very important. So those are just some of the things I would do if I were elected judge.
Very beneficial plans to implement, especially that Veterans Court. Because 70% of people that's on the streets of our homeless community, 70% of them, I think, are veterans. They honorably discharged veterans.
Yeah, it's shocking to see the numbers. It really is.
We got a call coming in, Chief.
Let's get the call.
Let's get the call. Good morning, caller. You have a question or comment for the ex-chief?
Good morning. Okay.
That's a good one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I intend to work. You know, Reggie and I have remained friends. I'm so pleased that he was elected our city marshal, and I think he's doing a great job. And I look forward to having the opportunity to work with him once again. And I'm praying that that's what's going to happen. So thank you for your confidence, and I appreciate the call.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, Colin, for calling in. The call-in number this morning is 337-347-7236. That'll get you in touch with us this morning. We have former chief, city court judge candidate, the Honorable Mr. Toby Aguilar on today as our special guest.
Could I address him a question?
Yeah,
The
we
question
gonna let
from-
our director come in and
Yes.
give some questions.
Yes. We got to wing it over here. It's live TV. The question I have for Chief Aguilar, I could still call you Chief, remember you.
Yes.
How would you draw from your experience as a police chief in the city of Lafayette in this area? Would you use it in applying issues or dealing with issues in the city court as a judge?
Sure. So, and thank you for that. It's a good question. I think that my experience as chief, and my experience as chief led me to get to know our community well. We seized the opportunity to do things like the community walks. I wanted to be an accessible chief to the public, and I wanted to attend as many events and opportunities as I could when I was chief, and as a result, I feel like I got a good handle on our community. I know a lot of the issues we're facing, that we have been facing, and so building on that experience, I would bring that to city court. I would bring my ability to recognize maybe how to deal with these, say when a young person ends up in misdemeanor court. I recognize some of the issues that these young people are facing in certain neighborhoods, and because I walk those streets and talk to those neighbors, and we knock on many of the doors and discuss, in particular, tell me what do you see as the biggest problem for your neighborhood? I think I can use that to my benefit when it comes to dealing with those who find themselves in misdemeanor court. And to me, I think that's going to be the biggest thing that I bring as a result of my experience as chief to city court, is just the fact that I had the opportunity to get to know every single community in this city, and actually spent the time walking and talking to the folks in every single community. So,
And Chief, the good part about it, with Chief Aguilar being city court judge, is he knows what he's facing because he's been there before as a chief, so he knows the problems we're dealing with in the city of Lafayette.
And as a judge, you have a lot of authority to implement certain programs that you would like to see. Like I said, go to the chief judge and make sure these programs are the things that you see that need to be done for the people in the community. It would benefit not just the court, but it would benefit the community and the people that live in the community.
Right.
I hope everybody don't be lined up and want to get in your courtroom.
Well, Judge Shalhoub has a fine reputation, and I would look forward to working with him should I get elected. But I've had the opportunity to sit down with Judge Shalhoub now for several times since announcing I'm running. And the court there are issues that the court is facing, lack of revenue. There's a couple things that that have occurred in recent months between LCG and the court itself that we hope that they'll soon be able to work out. Of course, the vacancy in the court caused issues and everything that came along with that. And then you had the whole COVID, the shutting down of the court.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's it's a tremendous time. And the truth is, our leaders in Lafayette and Lafayette Parish have faced a lot of huge challenges in the recent couple years. So, we got to all kind of take a breath and say, it's been a difficult few years here lately, and hopefully what we see in the future is a lot better, right? And so I look forward to sitting down, getting elected and sitting down with Judge Sloom and figuring out how we're going to implement these issues and address the issues that still remain because of the past few years, and then moving our city forward. That's the main thing, is becoming problem solvers and moving our city forward.
And that's what it needs. It needs that a whole lot. You know, like I said, right now, Lafayette is in, as far as I'm concerned, a dilemma.
A state of emergency.
Yeah. And that's the way I see it. It haven't always been like that. It might have been at 45% going downhill, but now look like we're running in an 80,000-pound truck going downhill with no brakes.
Yeah.
You know, right now we still don't have a chief. You know, we've been pushing for us to have an elected chief. You know, I would have loved to see you and former Chief Glover run for chief of police.
Right.
And I think you running for city court judge, if we ever get to where we could have our own elected chief, you know, I would love to see Chief Glover come back and run for that position.
Right.
You know?
Chief, let's talk a little bit about eviction and small claims court. During when the COVID-19 pandemic came through, and you had the federal government placed a moratorium on rent, and after the funds ran out, or after the moratorium was lifted, you had a slew of cases come through for evictions. And what program you would implement in an emergency to handle those cases?
So certainly COVID presented all sorts of problems, including the issue you're just bringing up, and evictions do occur in Lafayette City Court. That's one of its main purposes, and it's what keeps City Court fairly busy. But and so we had this unprecedented pandemic happen to us unexpectedly and sort of out of the blue. And evictions with the federal government, there was a moratorium, like you said, and it's my understanding that in city court the judges decided to follow the moratorium and not evict during that time period. Of course, the government also told us that many of us, at least I was one of them, could not go to work. And so, you know, when people can't go to work, then how do you pay rent, right? And so it was right that this moratorium got placed. But of course, the other side of it is the folks who own the facilities, and what are they supposed to be doing, hold the bag? And so this is one of the difficult problems of being a judge, right? And weighing out and balancing the needs of both sides. But there's always a way, you know. Sometimes it hurts a little more on one side, maybe on the other, but there's always a way to work through it. And what I would tell you is that I would follow the law. Mm-hmm. As your city judge, I will follow the law. If the law says that we are not evicting anyone right now, then that's exactly what we're going to do, not evict anyone right now. And when it happens that that moratorium is released and taken away, then we've got to do our best to be problem solvers and help these folks who have found, through no fault of their own, have found themselves in this position. And so it's not only about perhaps not evicting immediately, but it could be more about helping them to reach the folks, the community services that can help them as well. You know, when I left the police department, my first job was as managing attorney for Catholic Charities of Acadiana. A great, fantastic opportunity, and of course that was in the midst of COVID, and you know, very humbling experience for me. But you know, God always puts us where we need to be. It was also a very healing experience for me, because in that position I was able to help many folks in need. One of the things I got to do was go around and bring food to those who needed it in our community. So I'm driving the Catholic Charities van, you know, and listen, you know, what could be more rewarding than offering food to people who are hungry? You know, that was, you know, it was more of a benefit to me than it was the folks we were feeding, I
Yeah.
promise you. It's just what I needed in my life at that time.
Correct.
And so, anyway, but as a result of working for Catholic Charities, I really had the opportunity to get a good feel for everything it provides, as well as the other community organizations that they partner with. So I'm very familiar with what help is available to our community, and as judge, I'm going to help folks in need find the resources they need in our community.
Coming out of the pandemic, you mentioned the pandemic, the psyche of people are a little bit different. Would the court be handling, does that court handle a lot of minor domestic disputes? You got people,
It's my
just
understanding-
exploding from what I hear.
Right, it's my understanding that city court does not handle domestic violence issues. That all
Or
goes to the
domestic, disputes, because there had a story of one young lady who recanted to me she needed some type of help, that she had a ongoing feud with a neighbor for no reason. That neighbor was acting up, and they had to go to, I think, before the court
I see.
to deal with those, what you call a peace bond or some
Okay,
things
so
like that.
minor disturbances, yeah, I
Yes,
think that's
yes.
some of the things that we
Yeah.
can handle.
Or
Absolutely.
does, in your experience, from what you know as a chief, are you seeing a rise in that number, or?
You know, I don't know, and when I spoke with Judge Saloom about what the types of cases the court were seeing recently, that was not something he brought up to me. So my best guess to you is that they haven't seen a rise
Okay.
because it hadn't been brought up. So, which would be good, be good to know, but that's a very good question though.
And Chief Aguilar, I heard you mention that you're an attorney. Do you feel that once you become a public official, your other job has to be put to the side?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm practicing law in a civil law firm right now, and this is the first time in my career. As I told you guys, I spent most of my career, even with a law degree, was in leading at the Attorney General's office, prosecuting cases, the whole world of internet crimes against children, and then later as leader of the police department. I haven't spent much time at all handling civil cases.
We got a call coming in, Chief.
Okay.
Good morning, caller.
Yes, I'm calling, I have a question.
Okay.
Would you consider Judge Gillum to be unfit to remain in office, simply because of all of the rash decision he has made, closing the rec center, firing or laying off 37 people, 5 police chiefs? I mean, things like that before you was self-diagnosed?
Well, a very good question, and thank you. So let me just start by letting the listeners know that as a judicial candidate, I'm not allowed to criticize any politician or criticize any issue in particular, because I have to be perceived as unbiased if I reach the court, right? And so, I think the community knows that our mayor president has been struggling recently. He's been open about it. And I think the important thing for us to do for him now is to pray for him and hope for a recovery. Now, it's obvious that I probably don't agree with some of these decisions, and I think that the mayor president was probably acting on bad information when it comes to me. But at the same time, he has faced unprecedented challenges. And whether we like it or not, he is our elected representative at the moment. So I think as a community, it is important at all times that we at least try to come together where we can and hope for the best. And I'll tell you, I don't have any ill will towards Mr. Gilroy. I would have loved to have remained the chief, and I enjoyed my job, but I do understand politics, and that is part of the game you play, right? So I just think that at this time, especially given the circumstances, it's important that as a community, even when we disagree, that we at least pray for each other and hope for the best for each other.
Who was it that pushed Fontenot, the judge, to leave for what she did? this time?
Judge O'Day.
Oh, Judge Ogney.
The lady who was calling people out of their name.
Yeah, Judge O'Day. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, Judge Ogney is the one who vacated the seat that I'm running for, and I think that whole situation, as that situation developed and as it spread around the country, I really don't know what the force was that ultimately led to her resigning. But you know, certainly we've got to come back and build trust in the community and try to restore trust in the court as a result.
Okay, caller,
All right.
we're getting ready,
That happened.
we're getting ready to go up there.
Retried or re-looked at her decision she made because of the incident? Wouldn't that be the same thing under a generous term?
Oh, well, caller, we hate to cut your question off, but we have limited time, and
1 minute.
I need to give
1 minute.
the chief time to give his closing statement. We appreciate your call. Okay, chief, you got
Okay.
1 minute. You got 1 minute to.
Well, I would just say, you know, to the community that I appreciated the opportunity to serve you before. I'm asking for the opportunity to serve you again.
What's your number, chief?
My phone number?
No.
the number on the ballot.
Oh, you know, I really don't know it. I guess I should know it. See, I'm not a good politician. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Look for the big yellow sign, look for the big yellow sign.
Look for the big yellow
Yes,
sign.
I don't, the ballot numbers, I don't think they are.
Yeah, they
We may not have, are they? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look that up, Mr. Wallace, because it's a shame that I don't know that, but I don't know the answer
I
to
didn't
that.
mean to put you on the spot like that.
Yeah. I thought he was covering up the number to do
Yeah.
a test on you.
Yeah. Well, but I, you know, ask for the opportunity and thank everybody for their prayers, for their support, and for their vote.
Thank you, chief. We
Um,
appreciate you being here.
Love
I've
it.
had the early voting dates, but I don't think
We gonna get them because we got our early voting sign. We're gonna get them.
Yeah, we put it out there, but folks, if you can't put your hand on your voter's registration card, you need to re-register, and we need to get out there and vote.
Yeah.
That's a right that was fought for all parts of the community to be able to vote. We got to get out there and exercise the right, and look at the background of the candidates and make sure we put the right candidate in office.
We want to thank you guys for allowing us to be in your home, in your eyes, and in your heart. Hey, y'all have a blessed weekend. From Wallace, the host, and Brother Keith Fox, the co-host.
And before we go, I want to I believe Chief Aguilar's court, if he's elected, his court will be diverse in every way, and I don't think his court would ever have language to offend a certain section of the community.
Thank you. Chief?
Yeah, I had to put that out there because we.
Still on, streaming right. Okay. This could be edited.